This might be an intrusive question to ask random people on the internet, but what would you say makes you happy? Maybe you're the type of person who enjoys your work or studies. You like the process of learning or collaborating, and you feel a deeper purpose in what you do. A purpose you can't quite name, but one that drives you to stay. Maybe you find happiness during your hours away from work. You might head into the city on weekends to mingle, meet new people, or explore places you've never been to before.
I'm ready to bounce. Yo! Oh!
Or maybe you're a more sentimental type of person, finding joy in the relationships you already have, and knowing that no matter how bad things get, or how shit of a day you've had, you can always go home to the friends and family that care for you. Different things clearly make different people happy, and for the most part, many people have those things. But what if you didn't? What if no one helped you when you needed it? What if you had nowhere to go? No home to come back to? What if the people who were supposed to care for you didn't? What if you had nothing? This is the painful reality of Takopi's Original Sin, a series that exploded in popularity not because of its cool flashy fight scenes or a cute anime high school couple that will never, ever get together until the end of the series, but because it asks a question most stories avoid, which is how do you find happiness when you have nothing left? On the outside, it feels like an upbeat, feel-good kid show where a magical happy alien comes and saves the day. But in reality, it's a serious look into the lives of people who are trapped in a hopeless situation, struggling with trauma, depression, loneliness, and, well, the very idea of happiness itself. Not only does the show tackle these problems in a very unique way, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the most powerful pieces of media released in recent times. And I also believe that within the context and the script of the story holds some of the best lessons of happiness a show can offer, when we live in a world where even helping someone or getting help yourself can unfortunately lead to more problems. The series starts off with not one, but two disclaimers about its depictions of death. So this is probably a good time to say, if you're sensitive to those type of topics and you've never watched this show before, you might want to click off now. Because this video is also not going to shy away from scenes like that, and I will be demonetized faster than Silksong fans can crash online game markets. And also, if you're watching this and haven't watched the show, what are you doing? Go watch it now. We're introduced to a girl named Shizuka who's walking home from school until she notices something moving in her local park. She calls out to see if someone is crawling around in the concrete pipes, and in the dark, we see a silhouette. A silhouette of something clearly not human. Are you sure? It shifts and turns at first, moving to empty bottles and crumpled papers thrown away until we see multiple pairs of tentacles reach out and crawl its way towards the girl. It starts at a slow, deliberate pace, gradually speeding up, and before we know it, Shizuka is met with That's right, we're met with this little pink alien creature that might be one of the contenders for cutest anime character of 2025. And also the most marketable, if that wasn't already obvious. Does that say Walmart? Anyway, Shizuka, feeling bad for this alien, gives it her leftover lunch, and by doing so, we get to know a little bit more about this creature. We learn that they are a Happian, from the planet Happy Planet, traveling from world to world on a mission to spread happiness throughout the universe. And unfortunately, as soon as it landed on our world, it was almost captured. Luckily, it's been able to escape, but since that day, it's been hiding in this park with nothing to eat, until Shizuka came along and offered them her lunch. Shizuka asked this creature for its name, and they introduced themselves as Yeah, okay, your name is fucking Takopi. So Takopi, feeling grateful for Shizuka's help, wants to return the favor by letting her borrow one of the many happy gadgets they own. These happy gadgets are how Happians spread joy to other alien life forms they've met. For example, this specific one grants the user the ability to fly, and wanting to make Shizuka happy, they allow her to borrow it for a little while. However, to Takopi's surprise, she refuses, explaining to them that she has to buy a new riding board for school, but does promise to come back tomorrow with more food for Takopi to eat. Not understanding why she rejected their kindness, Takopi calls out to Shizuka to try and get her to stay, assuring her that she would have a lot of fun if she just tried. But when she responds as to why she can't, it isn't because she doesn't think it wouldn't be fun or that she's too busy. Her reason for not trying is this.
だって空なんて飛べたってどうせ何も変わらないし。また明日。
As she leaves the park, we get to see the front of her backpack. The leather is worn, clearly to the point of noticeable damage, and on the corners of her backpack are kanji symbols written in black marker. The top left one represents shi, meaning death. The top right, obutsu, meaning filth, and the bottom right, while harder to decipher than the others due to the handwriting, is probably katakana for kuzu, meaning trash or scum. This is where the clear shift of the show's tone is present, indicating that this isn't your generic anime kid show, but something darker and more adult. And in all of Takopi's wisdom, this is the conclusion they come to.
静香ちゃんはもしかしたら空を飛んだことがあるのかもしれないっぴ。
You said you could have
So Takopi thinks that the reason for Shizuka not wanting to use this happy gadget is that humans have the innate ability to fly. And if flying is nothing new to her, then it would make sense that this wouldn't be fun. Which I mean, isn't entirely a lie. So for a period of a week, Takopi introduces Shizuka to new happy gadgets. Like a head that will always give you wonderful advice, or a ballpoint pen that sounds just like a rabbit from Saturn. What the fuck? And something called a happy camera, which lets you take a picture. Yep, you just take a picture. Well, it does have other functionalities, but before Takopi can tell us, Shizuka interrupts them, stating that she needs to buy another writing board because she lost hers. At this point, we can pretty much assume what's happening to her, but as Takopi and Shizuka start to spend more time together, we get to see specifically what or who is responsible for all of this. On one of those days, we see Shizuka hiding behind the concrete pipes with Takopi, and in the background, a group of girls walk by bragging about how they broke Shizuka's writing board for the third time this week. These girls are probably also the ones writing those messages on Shizuka's backpack, and the person that's orchestrating all this is the blonde girl in the middle, named Marina. It's clear that at school that Shizuka is, unfortunately, a victim of bullying. But it's not just because of that reason that she acts the way she does. On the 6th day of the week, Shizuka invites Takopi over to her house, and during this, we get to know a little bit about her home life as well. Her mother is an escort that works throughout the night, and her father is completely absent. The only thing we know about her father is that at some point he left them to live in the city, and hasn't come back since. This is by definition the father going out to get the milk, and you know how that ends. It's also clear by the snippets we get of the interior of the house that their family isn't financially stable. Half-empty water bottles and wrinkled clothes lie scattered across the floor, while a small drawer with a warped board on top, likely used as a mirror, serves as her mother's makeshift vanity area before she heads out to escort customers. It can't be more obvious that Shizuka is living a very isolated lifestyle. But even with all that happening, there's still one good thing about her life. You see, before her dad left, he bought Shizuka a puppy named Chappie, and ever since then, she's been the one taking care of him. Shizuka tells Takopi that Chappie is really the only thing she truly loves at this point, and as long as she has him, she can endure anything that's thrown at her, no matter how painful or terrible things go. We cut to Takopi and Shizuka walking down the dirt road of their village, and at one point, Takopi offers Shizuka a trip to their home planet, and her response to this is very telling of her current mental state.
私魔法とか信じないから。魔法じゃなくハッピーダーグ。いけないよ、どこにも。ハッピー星にも、パパのところにも。
We've only known this character for a few minutes, but everything we've seen so far just emphasizes the fact that hope for a happier life was stripped away a long time ago. Especially in the part where she says she doesn't believe in magic. Earlier, Shizuka literally watched Takopi fly, but even then, it doesn't register as magic, because to her, none of these gadgets can actually fix her problems. None of these gadgets can actually grant her her true wish. So Takopi, hearing this and remembering their own mission, makes a promise to Shizuka. A promise that shapes the entire premise of the story, and marks the beginning of not just their journey to find happiness, but their path to truly grow.
静香ちゃん、今度は僕が静香ちゃんをハッピー星に招待するピよ。ハッピー道具もたくさんあるピし、それでだからそういう魔法とかはそれできっと静香ちゃんをものすごい笑顔にしてみせるピ。
And for the first time, in what feels like a very long time, she smiles. It's not the biggest smile Takopi promised, but it is progress. A sign that the rays of hope have slowly begun to break through the clouds. And with this hint that things might change for the better, maybe after a little time, and a little bit of hard work, everything will be okay. The next day, Shizuka comes to the park covered in bruises and cuts. Her left eye is swollen. Patches of dried blood cling to her cheek, and in her hand, Chappie's collar hangs loosely from her fist. Takopi notices this, but not understanding humans, they come to a completely wrong conclusion. Instead of seeing bruises, Takopi thinks her face is decorated, and when Shizuka quietly says she had a fight with a friend, Takopi assumes that just like happy ends, human faces must change color when they're angry. So believing that Shizuka simply needs to make up with her friend to be happy, Takopi offers another happy gadget, the reconciliation ribbon, a tool that repairs friendships when both people tie their pinkies to each end. Up until now, Shizuka has refused every gadget Takopi has offered, but this time, she accepts. She asks if she can use it, but only if she can use it alone. Takopi hesitates at first, because one of the rules surrounding these happy gadgets is that they can't be used without the supervision of a Happyan. But despite that, they eventually give in, allowing Shizuka to borrow the ribbon so she can make up with her friend. Shizuka leaves, and Takopi waits at the park for her to return. And waits, and waits, and waits. As day turns to dusk, Takopi looks for Shizuka, worried about her prolonged absence, and the first place they check is Shizuka's house. Takopi is successful at finding her, but when they do, it's not a pretty sight.
静香ちゃん、静香ちゃん、何やってるんだピ？そのリボンは柱に結びつけてもしょうがないピよ。もう一度使い方を説明するピ。大丈夫。降りてきていいピよ。静香ちゃん。静香ちゃん。静香ちゃん。静香ちゃん。
Shizuka's body now lies motionless on the floor, and the ribbon meant to repair friendships is also tied tightly around her neck. Takopi, realizing what's happened, panics and runs away, overwhelmed with emotions they've never felt before. They can't understand what they're seeing, and they don't understand why she's gone. All they can ask is, why? Why did it have to come to this? From the very beginning, it's clear that Takopi simply doesn't understand humans. And I don't just mean the physical side of humans, which by the way, they also don't know jack shit about. I mean the more emotional side. Takopi's ideas of happiness are rudimentary at best. To them, happiness can be handed out through simple means, like a magical gadget. And sadness is treated sort of like an illness. With proper care and attention, you can make it completely disappear. It's an entirely transactional way of viewing emotions. I give you this, therefore you feel this. There's no depth behind it, not by the fault of their own, but from their surroundings. They simply don't know better. But that same naivety, that same shallow understanding of what people feel, has now contributed to the death of someone who could have been their friend. And knowing that there isn't a gadget powerful enough to bring anyone back from the dead, Takopi does the only thing they can do. They take her hand and apologize for not being able to help.
You thought it was over.
Yeah, we're literally still like halfway into the first episode, so you know that's not how it's gonna go. So remember that camera Takopi used to take a picture of themselves with Shizuka? Well, this camera has the very special ability to go back in time when that photo was taken, and luckily, Takopi still has that photo. So using this picture and that happy gadget, Takopi plans to go back in time to save Shizuka. But before they leave, they make another promise. One born from Shizuka's death, and the desire to understand people.
わからないから聞きたいっぴ。たくさんお話しして、もっと君を知って、君が死んじゃわなくて済む未来を一緒に考えたいっぴ。静香ちゃん、君に明日こそ笑ってもらえるように。
And just like that, we're back. Back to the moment when Takopi took the picture. Back to when Shizuka was still here. This marks the beginning of Takopi's journey to save Shizuka. And what better way for Takopi to do that than to get to know Shizuka better? So Takopi remembers Shizuka mentioning that every day she goes to a place called school, and decides to tag along with her the next morning. We know previously that Shizuka gets bullied at school, but now we can see just how bad it really is, from her vandalized desk to her trashed cubby. But most importantly, Marina, the girl who we now know is responsible for all this. This is actually a good moment to pause the video and quickly talk about one of the main complaints of the show. I wouldn't say a lot of people share this sentiment, but the main criticism was the believability of this whole situation. For example, if a teacher or the principal were to see this happening to a student, they wouldn't just sit there and ignore it, they'd stop it, right? Especially when the bullying reaches this level of extremity. And for the most part, that's true. In most cases, there would be someone trying to intervene, whether it's an adult or the other students. And while this point does have merit, there's a reason why these scenes are portrayed this way. I think most people understand this, but anytime a moment like this appears, where the realism is questionable, there's almost always a narrative purpose behind it. And in this particular case, the goal isn't really to depict a typical bullying scenario, it's to emphasize just how hopeless Shizuka's situation really is. And they want us, the viewers, to feel that same hopelessness. Naturally, when we see something like this happen to someone else, especially at her age, we want to step in and help. Even though we know this is a fictional world with fictional characters, we still want to reach through the screen, grab the bully by the collar, and dropkick the shit out of her. But we can't. All we can do is watch. Well, unless you go to Archive of Our Own, make an account and self-insert yourself into the world isekai style, but you get what I mean. The second, and maybe more controversial point, is that I actually don't think this is as unrealistic as some people say. Well, not the whole blatantly writing shit all over someone's desk or throwing her backpack out a fucking window, but the unfortunate reality that people aren't as willing to help as much as we'd like to believe. As I said before, scenes like this try to push a narrative, and this one is no exception. It shows just how easy it is for acts like bullying to stay in place, because for it to persist, all anyone has to do is nothing. It only takes one teacher to overlook one quiet student, or a couple of classmates to look away and pretend nothing's happening. This isn't pain created by physical abuse or parental absence, it's done through indifference, complacency. And through the action of inaction, Shizuka's pain continues, even in a place where she should feel safe. So going back to the story, it's clear that Marina is one of the main reasons Shizuka took her own life. And now we get to see what Shizuka does on a daily basis. When the teacher calls for Shizuka to answer a homework question, she can't, because Marina stole her notebook before the class even started. When Shizuka couldn't finish her lunch, Marina berated her for it. Oh, and let's not forget, she threw her backpack out a fucking window! Also, in case anyone's wondering why Takopi can just like fly around and put their hands in the air like they just don't care, it's because they have that flower on their head, which allows them to disguise themselves as a happy flower. And that flower in mention is a chameleon flower, or the Japanese name Dokudami, which directly translates to poison repellent. Sounds pretty important, like it's supposed to mean something. So Takopi, after watching how Marina treats Shizuka, comes to the conclusion that Shizuka died because of everything Marina has done to her. And to fix this, they go back in time to undo all of Marina's actions, like giving Shizuka the answers she missed, eating all her food during lunch, and retrieving her backpack from the rooftops because she threw it at them! And after rotating some of the gears in their brain, Takopi comes to the wonderful conclusion that Shizuka and Marina are not on the best terms right now. Nah, I don't see it. I just don't see it. Takopi explains to Shizuka that when Happians fight, they hide each other's happy papers in order to get the other's attention to make up. And because that's Takopi's only experience with resolving conflict, they assume humans must do the same. So the next day, when a couple of girls tell Shizuka that Marina wants to talk behind the school, Takopi thinks this is the perfect chance for them to reconcile. But when they try to convince Shizuka to meet her, she refuses. Takopi, not wanting to force Shizuka into something she doesn't want, but still desperate to help them make up, remembers that they have a happy gadget, capable of turning them into anyone, as long as they have a piece of that person's DNA. Okay, seriously, how much can you fit under there? Where are you even pulling this from? Anyway, Takopi disguises themselves as Shizuka and rushes off to try and fix things. But when they finally meet Marina, things don't go the way they'd hoped.
何その喋り方変なの。あのね、マリナちゃん、ちょうど僕もお話ししたいと思ってて。
Takopi once again is confronted with an unfamiliar situation, one that reveals the painful truth that their way of solving conflicts doesn't always work. In Takopi's mind, all conflicts can be solved through conversation, no matter how serious the disagreement is. As long as both sides talk and find a middle ground, everything can be resolved. But here, there is no conversation. There is no middle ground. There's only violence. Every attempt Takopi makes to talk is met with a fist, a kick, cruelty that they simply do not understand. The hope of making Shizuka smile is replaced with fear, confusion, and pain. The very same feelings Shizuka has been enduring alone. But with the last bit of courage they have left, Takopi tries to de-escalate the situation, asking Marina to resolve things by talking them out, but Marina doesn't listen. And during this fight, we get our first glimpse into why she's like this, why she targets Shizuka so specifically.
男に寄生して生きてるアバズレの娘が道徳語ってる暇あるならパパを返してよ。マリナちゃん待って。だからその喋り方やめろって。あ、これ無理だ。タコピー
This time, when they're in the bathroom, Takopi can't bring themselves to meet Marina. The memory of what she did is still too fresh in Takopi's mind. However, still wanting to help Shizuka, they take another route, disguising themselves as her again, but this time calling out for help, saving Shizuka from further damage. We also meet a guy named Azuma who asks if Shizuka needs any further assistance, but Shizuka just kinda walks away. This guy also might be slightly important, just FYI. They head back to the park and Takopi, thinking their attempts to help only made Marina hurt Shizuka even more, tries to apologize. But Shizuka, instead of blaming them, is grateful. She tells us that ever since Marina's father got close to her mother, things have been like this. And because of both her home situation and school, she found nothing in life fun anymore. But even with everything going wrong, because of Takopi's efforts and genuine care, Shizuka once again smiles. Helping Shizuka heal will obviously take time, but it's a good start. A start in the right direction. Or so we think. Because as Takopi and Shizuka are talking, we see Marina watching them from behind the concrete wall, furious that their attempt to bully Shizuka failed. We then follow her while she's stomping back to her house, and the moment she steps inside, we're shown yet another unfortunate truth.
調子乗りやがっ
パパはお夕飯あの人と食べるそうだからマリちゃんももう少し早く帰ってくれればいいのにママまた一人で怒られちゃったマリちゃんはママの味方だよねママのお話聞いてくれるよね
Shizuka and Takopi are once again at the park with Chappie, and here we get a deeper look into Shizuka's feelings about her father. She speaks fondly of the time they've spent together, remembering how they used to go on walks around town all the time before he left. And on those nights when her parents would start fighting, she would look up at the stars, wishing to any being or deity that might be listening to stop her parents from divorcing. But no matter how hard she wished, nothing could make her dad stay, hence why she doesn't believe in magic. It's a somber memory for Shizuka. But the fact that she's willing to open up about something this delicate shows that there is a positive change happening within her, a change that Takopi is directly responsible for. But unfortunately, this positive change is short-lived, as Takopi realizes something very important. You see, the day of which everything is currently taking place is the 6th day of the week, and Shizuka's death was on the 7th. In other words, tomorrow. And as we recall, on the day she ended her life, Shizuka was holding Chappie's collar with Chappie himself nowhere to be found. And the moment Takopi realizes this, it's already too late. We see Marina approach them, and she puts her plan into motion.
質問に答えてよ一人じゃ生きてけない寄生虫が犬クソ飼える身分かって聞いてんのマリナちゃん優しくなったんじゃないピか怖すぎて動けない
Acting like the victim of a rabid dog attack, she was able to take away Chappie, the one thing that made Shizuka happy, and the one thing anchoring her to this world. Just moments ago, it looked like things were getting better, but once again, her hope is ripped away. Takopi, knowing all too well where this will lead, jumps back in time and tries to change the path they take, leading Shizuka down a different road to avoid Marina. But somehow, Marina still finds them. Takopi tries again and again, but no matter what they choose, Marina always finds them. And every single time, the results are the same. We find out that Marina has been actively keeping track of Shizuka, and in a small town like this, avoiding her is impossible. It feels like Chappie being taken away, and Shizuka's eventual death is inevitable. But even so, Takopi keeps trying, desperate to make Shizuka and Chappie get the happy ending they deserve. But at the end of it all, the best they can do is this.
だから静香、チャッピーはお父さんとこ行くことになったから。人を噛んだ犬はこの町には住めないんだって。だからいつか取りに行けるわよ。早く。
In the original manga, it stated that Takopi went back 101 times, and out of all those realities, this is the only version that guarantees that Shizuka will one day be able to see Chappie again. It at least reassures Takopi that Shizuka won't lose all hope. But for now, Chappie is at her father's place in Tokyo. This is also the first time we see Shizuka's mother, and the way she treats Shizuka immediately reinforces how hopeless Shizuka's home life really is. Even with Shizuka looking like she just went through hell, she never asks if Shizuka is okay, or for her side of the story. Instead, she asks about the one thing that has nothing to do with Shizuka.
ていうか静香、頭に毒ダミってどうなのよ。
From this, we understand why Chappie is so important to her. Because aside from Takopi, Chappie was the only source of real unconditional love she's ever received. And with the loss of Chappie, comes the loss of Shizuka's will. She's unresponsive, mute. Any attempt Takopi makes to comfort her is met with silence, a cold shoulder. The next day is the same routine. She wakes up, goes to school, and gets bullied by Marina. Takopi accomplished their goal of keeping Shizuka alive, but she's worse off than ever before. Nothing has changed. Shizuka and Takopi start heading home, but before they can, they're intercepted once again by Marina, who practically rage bait Shizuka into following her into the woods to talk about Chappie. And as they both walk further down, we see a snippet of Marina and her family at their dinner table, and we start to see the curtains of this situation slowly unfolding. Her parents are arguing aggressively, both pretending that Marina isn't like literally sitting in the chair next to them. It's like how Asian parents talk shit about their child when they're like a room away so they can tell you how much you suck without having to actually, look at you. Anyway, Marina, as most people probably expected, was never planning to talk. She just wanted to get Shizuka alone so she could go full Mike Tyson on her ass. But in the words she throws at Shizuka, we finally see Marina's trauma surface and fully understand why she targets Shizuka so intensively.
パパはママにまた指輪を買ってあげるはずなのに、見ず知らずの商売女なんかじゃなくてアリナの家族に。
She blames Shizuka's mother for taking her father away. And since she can't lash out at the adults, the people actually responsible, she lashes out at the only person she can reach. She naively believes that if Shizuka were gone, everything would return to normal. That her family would once again be whole. Takopi reaches for their camera to travel back in time, but looking at Shizuka, who's barely holding on against Marina, they hesitate. They've already gone back so many times, and no matter how many times they've tried, Shizuka and Chappie always end up separated. With the pressure of Shizuka's well-being on the line, they're now under a clock. Even Takopi themselves is losing hope. So at the last minute, they make a decision that goes against their own morals.
今度こそ僕が助けるピー。
In an effort to protect Shizuka, Takopi accidentally takes the life of Marina. Realizing what they've done, they reach for the camera to try and use it, but it's broken. No matter how many times they press the button, nothing happens. They no longer have the ability to go back in time. No more do-overs, no more resets, and no more second chances. Takopi, letting the reality of the situation sink in, panics. But before they can even process a plan, we see Shizuka's reaction.
タコピーすっごい。え、すごいすごいすごい。本当にすごい。
Shizuka is clearly happy, ecstatic even. The colors in the scene brighten, sparkles shine around her face, and the whimsical, childlike innocence children usually have return. Other than bringing her father back, Takopi granted the one wish she's been praying for. It's almost as if Takopi used magic. She now has a different outlook on life. She's been given hope. And from this one violent act, we see the biggest smile she's ever given us. They did it. Takopi accomplished the mission they were sent here to do. So as Takopi takes Shizuka's hand, they turn towards the light and walk out of the woods to face a new tomorrow, leaving Marina's body behind in the dark. Now, as the viewers, we know that this happiness is quickly going to turn into a shit show. Takopi's actions did in fact give Shizuka a level of happiness she's likely never felt before, but it came at the cost of someone's life, and unfortunately, her moral compass as well. Over the course of this story, Shizuka has mentioned her disbelief in magic multiple times, especially in the beginning where she heavily insists that there are no otherworldly forces that could ever change her fate. However, things did change, but not because of some magical ability or supernatural item. They changed because of an action any human being has the capability to do. And while the implications of that are obvious to us, Shizuka's immaturity and lack of nuance is a reminder that, despite everything she's been through, she is still just a child. Her understanding of right and wrong isn't based on values she was taught because there aren't any. It's based entirely on how something makes her feel. Marina's death ended a huge part of her suffering, a burden that was unfairly placed on her shoulders, and once that weight was lifted, she felt like one of her long ignored wishes had finally been granted, hence why she calls it magic. She doesn't stop to think about the consequences of that act, how it can affect others, and most importantly, how it can affect herself. It's linear, it's narrow-minded, it's childish, but that's exactly what she is, a child. A child who should have never been placed in a situation like this in the first place. As Takopi and Shizuka leave the woods, they bump into Azuma, the boy we saw from earlier. And when he sees them, he also sees... yeah. He freaks out, for very obvious reasons, and confronts Shizuka about it. But both she and Takopi are completely numb to what just occurred mere minutes ago. In fact, neither of them think anything is wrong. They talk as if Marina's body isn't literally lying a couple of inches away. Azuma, not really caring about the semantics, suggests she should turn herself in to get a lighter sentence. But knowing that doing so would mean she'd never see Chappie again, Shizuka pleads for him to help her. He clearly knows nothing good can come out of this. But when she says she has nowhere else to turn and that he's her only hope of ever seeing Chappie again, my man buckles. Shizuka rolled a natural 20 on the persuasion check and obtained the simp upgrade. Well, if Azuma needs any advice, I think one of my previous videos would help him in a situation like that. So Azuma comes up with a plan to try and help her get the Chappie while also not, going to jail. He places Marina's body inside this happy gadget that preserves anything placed inside and buries it. Very convenient, if you ask me, but I mean, it's murder. They also use the happy gadget that Takopi used to disguise themselves previously to turn themselves into Marina, because it would be kind of awkward if Marina all of a sudden, just disappeared forever. And the now transformed Takopi is sent to Marina's house to blend in, so no one starts asking questions. And when we get there, we see exactly what Marina was hinting at. Like the flashbacks entail, Marina's parents are constantly fighting, from the moment Takopi walks through the door to the second they sit down at the dinner table. And it's likely been that way even before Marina's dad started seeing Shizuka's mom. We also see both parents are more focused on their own feelings rather than their own daughters. It's clear that there's no more love within this family, and later when we see Azuma, Takopi, and Shizuka at the park discussing new plans to get to Tokyo, Takopi mentions that Marina's parents are going through a divorce. We'll soon see just how broken this family truly is, but for now we're introduced to another character, Junya, Azuma's older brother, and the moment he appears, it's obvious Azuma holds a little resentment towards him. And no, this isn't another one of your Itachi Sasuke situations. Okay, maybe like 10%, because Azuma is very envious of his brother, Junya. Junya is the person the family looks at for, well, everything. He gets the best grades, the biggest achievements, and he can do so seemingly effortlessly. He's pretty much the golden child of their family, and Azuma's jealous of the attention his brother constantly gets, especially from his mother. I'll be honest, the next couple of parts don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, so I'll just give you the footnotes until we get to the more important parts. Basically, Azuma isn't thrilled that his Oni-chan picked up a part-time job instead of studying. However, with that money, he was able to buy his girlfriend a ring, and Shizuka gives him the brilliant idea to steal it. to shock him so bad he leaves his job. This is a stupid plan. But Shizuka hits Azuma with the smolder and boom, we're outside Junia's room all sneaky-like. To make a long story short, he fails, and falls, and cries. But it's here that we get our first real look at Azuma's past, and why he is the way he is. Azuma has always felt this overwhelming need to succeed at everything he does, and that comes directly from his mother. You see, every time Junia would do something well, like score a perfect grade on a test, their mother would reward him with pancakes. The same would be done for Azuma, but he could never quite reach his mother's expectations. After one failed attempt too many, his mother tells him that maybe she's wasting her time on him, because no matter how hard she tries, he always fails. Azuma's trauma isn't as extreme as Shizuka's or Marina's, but it's real, and definitely more relatable. This is just typical Asian household fear-mongering. But jokes aside, these are very real feelings, caused by his mother's high expectations. He seeks validation, and this validation comes from Shizuka, someone who shares many visual characteristics with his mother. Without realizing it, she's filling in the hole that his mother leaves. There are no strict expectations, and no image he's forced to keep. He's finally accepted for just being him. For now. But until then, she makes him happy, and that's what matters. Right? At least that's what Takopi thinks, and as far as we know, it works. The next day, we see them all playing together, hanging out at school, drawing in the park, catching bugs in the woods, all looking as if their problems have disappeared. But for us, the viewers, it feels like the show is taunting us. It's like we're being shown what could have been, that maybe in a different time, or a different life, this could have been their reality. But we know that their happiness is built off an illusion that we know cannot last. Later during the day, we see the still disguised Takopi sitting at Marina's dinner table, and once again, her parents are arguing. What they're arguing about doesn't really matter, but at one point, Marina's dad asks if Takopi would like to live with him in Tokyo. Remembering that Tokyo is where Chappie and Shizuka's father are, Takopi enthusiastically agrees. We get a subtle hint that Marina's mother is quite displeased with her daughter's response, and spoiler alert, she is. And later that night, she makes sure Marina, or rather Takopi, knows it. When we're first introduced to Marina, it's clear that she's the obvious villain. She's cruel, abusive, obnoxious, everything people are taught not to be. So it makes perfect sense that we, as the viewers, are supposed to hate her. But that's not the full picture. Her actions are inexcusable, but they're also a byproduct of what she herself experiences. She is also a victim that shares similar pains with Shizuka. During their encounter in the woods, we hear Marina say this to her.
お前にはパパもいない。優しいママもいない。友達もいない。誰も心配してくれない。
Marina, without even realizing it, projects her own pains onto Shizuka. She doesn't know what to do with her suffering, so she hands it off. And she hands it to the only person at school who could actually relate to her. Her anger and volatility weren't traits she was born with, they were learned, shaped by her environment, and molded over time. This scene is incredibly hard to watch, and while it's essentially Takopi getting the absolute snot slapped out of them for the next few minutes, it's also one of the most important moments in Takopi's growth. Because right before Marina's mom goes in for what looks like the final hit, she breaks. And with no energy to even be angry anymore, we hear her final plea.
お願いします。マリナを返してください。どこの誰だか存じませんが、マリナはお腹を痛めて産んだ大切な娘なんです。マリちゃんごめんね。いいママじゃなかったよね。でも大好きだからお願い。帰ってきて。
As they look at the pictures on Marina's wall, they're forced to face memories of a once happy family, one that ate together, played together, loved each other. And even though that's no longer the case, these memories have a special place in their hearts. Again, her actions will never be excusable, and she always had the choice to go down a better path, but no one was there to teach her how. No one was there to help her navigate through pain she couldn't understand. All that was driving her was the desperate hope that her family could one day be happy again. But with her death, that possibility died as well. There's no longer room to make amends, and no more room for change, because the piece that held all the potential to change is now permanently gone. Takopi made Shizuka happy, but at what cost? They realized that the happiness they gifted to Shizuka was from the loss of a girl who was suffering just as much as her. An act that left no room to care for another person's story. It's happiness that teaches the wrong lesson, one that poisons not just the people around her, but herself as well. And with the haunting reality looming over them, Takopi is forced to face their sin. With their newfound knowledge from last night, Takopi tries to bring up the whole Marina situation again. But before we see a news report online stating that the police have found Marina's body. And Azuma does not take this well. I mean, it would hit anyone hard. It's not like he's a psycho. Okay, maybe like half psycho, but I mean, dude's got mommy issues. They rendezvous at the park to come up with alibis and a new game plan to get to Tokyo, but Takopi suggests that they should just tell the truth, as a way to own up for their mistakes and give her family closure. Azuma clearly agrees, thinking that a confession might earn them a lighter sentence, but Shizuka ain't having none of that. She brushes both of them off and insists that they stick to their plan to get to Tokyo as fast as possible. In order to get her way, she once again uses her S-tier rizzing abilities on Azuma, and once again, they are super effective. Azuma starts working on a new plan, but before he can get far, Junya checks in on him. With the realization that he is now an accomplice to Marina's murder, and that anything he writes or texts could lead to everyone getting in trouble, Azuma avoids all interaction at any cost, which of course only makes Junya more suspicious. This is pretty much the equivalent of like the cops catching you past a red light while you have a dead body in your car. You know what they say, don't commit a crime while you're committing crime. Yeah. It's only a matter of time before the truth comes out, but regardless, Azuma pushes forward, not wanting to let Shizuka down. With this renewed spark of confidence, he heads into class, takes the day's test, and keeps brainstorming ways to keep them all safe. And why wouldn't he be able to do this? I mean, he's smart, he's aced all of his tests,
Azuma-kun. テスト終わったよ。
Azuma is used to not meeting his mother's expectations, but this is the first time he actually fails. He doesn't know what to think or how to feel. All he can do is sit and wait for his mother. As she approaches, Azuma closes his eyes, bracing for punishment. But instead, she hands him the pancakes. Maybe she started to finally understand. Maybe she's realized how harsh she's been and is giving him a break. Who am I kidding? You know that's not how it's going to go. Depression stocks are up 100% since this video started. And it's about to go up 100% more.
君はもういいから。いくらできないからってさ、毎日勉強もしないで、うんと悪い点取って気を引こうっていうのは、いくらなんでもお母さん、幼稚だと思うな。だからもういいよ。お母さんも頑張らないことにした。おやつも毎日食べればいいし、何点取ってもいいから、君の好きなようにやりなね。
Obviously, the main characters of the series are Shizuka and Marina, and their issues are objectively much more extreme than Azuma's. But his situation shouldn't be overlooked. Feelings of loneliness and depression can be felt by anyone. It doesn't take a physically abusive mother or an absent father to feel like you don't belong. In Azuma's case, he does have a caring mother, and as far as we know, he also has a caring father. But how his mother displays care for her child is strict, rigid. Everything needs to be perfect. Azuma's mother is a doctor. and with that responsibility comes the pressure to be flawless. During one of Azuma's flashbacks, we hear her explain that as doctors, even one mistake could mean further injury for their patients, or in worst cases, their lives. She's a perfectionist, and whether Azuma likes it or not, that trait was passed down to him. But unlike his brother, who can ace his academics while maintaining a social life, Azuma cannot. He traded friendships and companionship for the sake of pleasing his mother, something Junya can achieve effortlessly. So feeling like his family no longer wants him, he goes to the one person that seemingly does.
And when I say seemingly, I mean seemingly. Because when he offers Shizuka that he would do anything in his power to save her, she hands him the broken camera and asks him to turn himself in.
Ever since Takopi killed Marina, it's clear that Shizuka has been slipping down a darker path. Again, she's happier, she's more optimistic, but the roots of her happiness stem from a completely self-serving perspective. And now, she plans to make herself happy, even if it means hurting someone who wants to try and help her. In Azuma's moment of doubt and confusion, she kisses him on the cheek and hugs him close, gestures that his mother did for him only when he was very, very young. She used his vulnerability as a weapon, one used to carve a path to her end goal. And unfortunately, it works. He grabs the camera late at night and plans to frame himself for the murder. But before he can, he's once again interrupted by Junya. As Junya approaches Azuma, we see just how much these recent events impacted his mental well-being. He hallucinates Junya grabbing onto him with distorted limbs as his body grows in size, berating him for what he's done, how their actions will ruin their family, their future. It's all of Azuma's internal demons manifesting as the person he both envied, but also always wanted to become. He believes that all he'll ever be is a burden, that as long as he's with the people that care for him, he's always going to find a way to bring them down. But the reality is, it's not like that at all.
なあ、大丈夫か？やっぱなんか思い詰めてるだろ。だからちゃんと相談しろって。何でも聞くから。
Even though I've stated before that the centerpieces of the show are Shizuka and Marina, this moment with Azuma is one of the most important scenes in the entire show, because it proves that while a single event can push someone into darkness, a single question, a small act of kindness, can pull someone back towards the light. And with just a simple question, everything he's been holding in finally comes to the surface. With nothing left to lose, he does what Takopi said to do from the very beginning. They talk it out.
いや、俺がいるだろ。さっきから言ってるだろ。何でも聞くって言うのはな。テストの点がどうとか関係ねえんだよ。どうでもいいんだ、そんなことは。わかんないことだろうが悩みだろうが何でも言っていいし、聞きたいよ俺は。お前は俺の弟なんだから。できないことはできないって言っていいんだよ。直樹。てかな。
Junya then talks about his imperfections, like he's terrible at video games and needs to ask his girlfriend for help. He talks about how the pancakes that were treated as this proof of success by their mom wasn't even well cooked. They were frozen before their mom needed to head out to her night shift. And the message he passed down to Azuma is a message that should be passed down to everyone. Just because you fail doesn't necessarily make you a failure. And just because you don't meet someone's expectations, that doesn't make you any less valuable. Finding happiness can be a long and complicated process, but sometimes it can be simple. All it can take is a simple conversation. And with this conversation, Azuma steps into the light and finds his way back to the place he truly belongs. Azuma then tells Junya about the whole situation, and this causes their family to close their clinic until they figure something out. People in the village are now aware of Azuma's involvement in Marina's murder, and that also means everyone knows Shizuka is most likely involved as well. With nothing left to hide, Takopi once again tries to persuade Shizuka to tell the truth, but her mind is set. With a smile on her face, she packs up, straps in, and gets ready to go to Tokyo. With the help of Takopi and their happy gadgets, Shizuka is able to find her way to Tokyo. And this is set up to be that final hurrah moment for Shizuka. Finally, after all this time, we get to see what her dad is like. We get to see what he's been doing all this time. And maybe after talking to her dad, Shizuka can finally find some peace of mind.
静かなんで急に
お父さん
どうしたさつき危ないだろエリちゃんが寝てるんだから
ね
だから危ないってば
During her journey across Japan, her clothes were clean, her skin unmarked, and her eyes carried that sparkle of magic she started to believe in again. But when she sees the reality that her dad moved on with a new family without keeping Chappie, we see the illusion fade. Her clothes are once again dirty, her skin is bruised, and her eyes return to that same hollow emptiness we saw at the very beginning. It's a visual reminder that despite Marina's death, despite escaping her mother, despite the help she's got from Takopi, nothing has changed. With no sign of Chappie and the father she remembers gone, she once again loses all hope. The only difference this time is that sadness turned into anger. She asks Takopi if there's a happy gadget that can open up their stomachs, so she can see if maybe the girls living in her dad's home ate Chappie. She's jumping to crazy conclusions, but at the center of it all, she's treating the two daughters of her father as obstacles to her happiness, kind of like what Marina was doing to her. The roles in the story have been reversed. The Shizuka we see now is taking the role of the old Marina. Takopi, witnessing the shift, begs Shizuka one last time to stop what she's doing, to turn around and go back to the way things were. But she's too far gone. Abandoned by her mother, Azuma, and now her father, she's now completely lost. And thinking Takopi has abandoned her too, she lashes out. She grabs a nearby rock and tries to hurt, if not kill, Takopi. And when she hits them, we see something interesting. You see, throughout the series, Takopi has stated multiple times that they can't return to their home planet, but they can't remember why. And at this moment, forgotten and repressed memories are triggered from a look that they swear they've seen before. And after everything that's happened, they finally get their memories back.
ねえそこに誰かいるの何ピー僕はハッピー星人みんなをハッピーにしちゃうピーまずは教えてほしいピー君の名前はマリナ
So Takopi originally landed on Earth 5 years into the future to meet Marina, and their meeting began almost exactly the same way as Shizuka's. Marina gives Takopi food, they show her these happy gadgets, and they follow her around trying to make her happy. But as we are now 5 years into the future, we see that Marina's situation has gotten even worse. Her mother has completely given into her despair, drowning herself in alcohol, rambling to herself, and becoming a hollow, unstable version of the parent she once was. We also see that her mother's violent outbursts have escalated to the point of leaving permanent scars. Marina tells Takopi that one day when she was younger, she made her mom upset, and in retaliation, her mother struck her with a glass cup. Unfortunately for Marina, the glass shattered on impact, causing her to get that scar. And ever since then, Marina has been terrified of glass. Takopi, being, well, Takopi, tries to extract more information from Marina to learn what would actually make her happy. She does mention that one of her dreams, later down the road, is to make a family of her own, so she can try to make her mother happy while also providing happiness of her own. And Takopi hears this and goes, "We gotta find you a strong man." that can take care of you. So grabbing her hand, Takopi rushes off, and by pure luck, they run into an older version of Azuma. The two start dating shortly after, and this actually causes a good change in both Marina and her mom. Her mother becomes more attentive again, more hopeful for her daughter to have a good future with a nice man. Takopi once again helped someone find another way, and in the same way Shizuka told them that life wasn't so bad anymore, Marina does the same thing.
A lot of parallels this show likes to do. And we're about to get hit with another one.
Because later that day, when Azuma and Marina are walking down the same old street we're familiar with, we hear from a couple of girls that a new transfer student is coming back to town. The girl in question was originally from here, but a couple of years back, she attempted to take her own life.
But fortunately, her attempt failed, so okay, but I don't even know why I'm doing this. Yeah, it's Shizuka. She's back.
And with her return means the return of Simp Nation, and Azuma breaks up with Marina on the day she's supposed to bring him over for a family dinner.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm just gonna blame the whole road that everyone is walking on at this point, because this shit is cursed.
Marina's mother obviously asks why Azuma isn't showing up, and Marina is afraid to tell her because she knows exactly what the reaction will be. Takopi doesn't really know how a breakup works, so they go off to chase after Azuma, leaving Marina to handle her mother alone. And when she does finally tell the truth, her mom has a generational crash out. During this, we see that Takopi has found Azuma, but when they do, they also get a good look at Shizuka. And this is when we see what Takopi meant when they said that they've seen these eyes before, as the look she had in the past matches the one that we see now. Back at Marina's home, her mother pins her to the ground, and realizing that both Marina, and deep down she herself, believes everything is her fault, she reaches for a piece of broken glass and attempts to make this their final argument. In an act of self-defense, Marina kills her own mother. She apologizes to her mother's lifeless body, whispering that if only she had killed Shizuka when they were younger, maybe her dad would still be here. Maybe Azuma wouldn't have left, and maybe they could have been a family again. Seeing Marina's broken state, Takopi promises to grant her that wish, to kill Shizuka and make her smile again. So they travel back to their home planet to use the happy clock, planning to rewind time and fulfill Marina's last wish. But with no one left to care for her and nowhere left to go, Marina picks up a broken bottle and ends her own life. After such a morbid scene, we're finally shown Happy Planet for the first time. The colors of this planet are vibrant. Everything is painted in bright, saturated hues that make everything feel very dreamlike, almost like something straight out of a children's coloring book. We see Happians working together, smiling, and living exactly the way Takopi had described. And finally, we are shown the god of this planet, a being the Happians simply call Mama. It takes the form of a massive tentacle-like entity that descends from the heavens and coils gently around this grand building crowned with a massive clock. This building is the Big Happy Clock that Takopi plans to use to go back in time. Its design is almost reminiscent of a kindergarten, fitting perfectly with the bright color palette and childlike mannerisms of the Happians. Takopi tells Mama that they intend to use the Happy Clock to go back in time and kill Shizuka. She accepts this request, but states that she will erase Takopi's memories to the state of a newborn, because in doing all this, Takopi has broken the most important rule of Happy Planet. It's unclear what exactly this rule is, and if you read the manga, some of the translations are different, but this moment marks Takopi's original sin, the loss of innocence and the first steps towards corruption, hence why they're being reborn. But Takopi refuses to accept this fate and smacks Mama away. They run to the Big Happy Clock and go back in time to complete their mission, but unfortunately, the process of rebirth has already begun. When Takopi lands on Earth, they forgot who they were meant to save, and before they can recognize her face, we're met again with the grisly moment of Takopi taking Marina's life. This leaves Mama confused in more ways than one. She doesn't understand what killing even is, a detail that reinforces how innocent and untouched by violence Happy Planet truly is. But as the mother of Takopi and the other Happians, she just wants to understand why. Why did it have to come to this? With Takopi's memories finally returning, they believe they know what they now must do, to end the life of Shizuka completely. They now think that because of her, Marina couldn't find happiness. Marina lost her father, her potential future partner, and the warmth of a mother who only sank deeper into despair. Because Shizuka lived, Marina suffered. And now, Shizuka plans to hurt even more people. She no longer cares for anyone around her and will do whatever it takes to make those who harmed her suffer. Shizuka has become a monster that spreads poison wherever they go. But then again, so was Marina. She too had lost the empathy to care for others. She berated and tormented Shizuka to make her feel isolated, so hopeless that she tried to end her own life. And unfortunately for Takopi, in their journey to spread happiness across the world, they became a monster as well. They killed the very person they were originally trying to protect, to open their eyes to the magic and wonders of our world. Even if it wasn't their intention to kill Marina, they did. And at the beginning of the story, they also accidentally caused Shizuka's death. Takopi once believed that Shizuka was the villain, just as we once believed Marina was the villain. But now, we get an intimate understanding of everyone's life. This scary-eyed manipulator was also the girl kind enough to give Takopi food when they needed it. The girl that wished upon the stars to have a normal family. Someone who wanted to have a reason to laugh, to smile, to play with friends. Someone who was simply born in an unfortunate situation. Takopi is more confused than they've ever been. They know Shizuka's going to do terrible things, and they know she made that decision at the end of the day, but they just can't do it. And while Takopi struggles with this impossible choice, fate brings them a possible answer. They meet Azuma again for the last time. Takopi, overwhelmed and desperate for answers, ends up spilling all the beans to Azuma. They tell him about where they came from, their original plan of coming back in time, the whole shebang. And Azuma doesn't get any of it. But regardless, Takopi asks him to help him find Shizuka, but he can't. Because this is the last time he'll ever be able to see Takopi or Shizuka again. We learn that his mother is bedridden from the stress of the whole situation and doesn't seem to be getting better anytime soon. Azuma, not wanting to burden his family any further, came to the park in hopes of seeing the squad one last time to say goodbye. But Takopi, in their confusion, can't understand why this has to end. All these thoughts swirl in Takopi's mind until they finally ask the question that's been sitting at the forefront of their mind. Why do they still want to see Shizuka smile? How can a person be so cruel, but so gentle at the same time? How can she be both good and bad? Well, it's because she's human, which is exactly what Azuma says to Takopi. Everyone has their own story, how they came to be the person they are today. Some people may seem more gifted or more put together than others, but no one is purely good or purely bad. Everyone has the potential to hurt others, even when they never meant to. We can have good intentions, and we can try to be good people, but as Junya told Azuma, no one can be perfect. And Azuma understands that now more than anyone, because like Takopi, he also has a lot of mixed feelings towards the people around him. He blames himself for what happened to his family, he blames Takopi for being too naive all the time, and he blames Shizuka for manipulating his feelings. But he also realizes that without them, he never would have experienced the good moments either. For the first time in his life, he had friends. He looked forward to going to school. He wasn't thinking about his grades or Junya or the pressures of his mother's expectations. He was simply allowed to exist, to enjoy the little moments that life has to offer us. So even though Shizuka did what she did, even though Takopi's involvement led to all of this, Azuma has both the empathy and the courage to thank them. He thanks them for showing him that he is more than his test scores or his status, and that even someone like him can find happiness if he tries. He gives back the broken time camera to Takopi and starts reflecting on everything that's happened. He sees now that simply wanting to help wasn't enough, because his help came from a place of self-satisfaction, to prove to himself that he could finally get something right. By not truly trying to understand why Shizuka is the way she is, they only made the situation worse. Trying to save her might have been a mistake. As Azuma turns to leave, he calls back to Takopi one last time and asks if they ever return to the past to tell his past self that it's okay to fight with his brother sometimes. And with that, he walks away, leaving Takopi sitting alone with the painful realization that simply wanting to help was never enough. It's clear that Shizuka went through with the plan of going into her dad's house and kidnapping his two other daughters. Fortunately, they were able to get them back home, but when they do, they're not in any good state, clearly traumatized from what Shizuka has done. And we get to see the monster Shizuka has become. When Takopi finally finds Shizuka back at the park, we see how fed up she's become with the world, how tired she is of being the victim. Takopi tries to share everything they've learned, everything they finally come to understand, but it all falls under deaf ears. She's already planning to go to the animal shelter to get Chappie, hurting any of the staff members who get in her way. But Takopi, for the first time, stands against her. They plead with her to stop, because if she doesn't, she will continue to hurt more innocent people, potentially leaving others in a similar state as her. The magic of Takopi's resolve takes the form of shining lights and surrounds Shizuka, like the stars she once looked upon for a miracle. But the glow gradually darkens, until it becomes black. There's too much pain to see the light, too much hatred to go back to the way things were. And after holding everything inside for far too long, her silence finally breaks, and all of her feelings and pain come pouring out.
パパと好きな時に会えなくなったらどうすればいいの？授業参観誰も来なくなったらどうすればいいの？チャッピーの声がうるさいってみんなに怒られたらどうしたらいいの？推しの人呼んでって推しに誰もいなかったらどうしたらいいの？ねえこういうこと誰に言えばよかったの？誰も私のことなんて見てなかったじゃん。ねえ全部一体どうすればよかったってお前言ってんだよ!
And really, what else could she have done? She was born to a mother who never cared for her, born to a father that left her for another family. She was beaten up every day at school for something she couldn't control. She was failed by society. How can you expect her to learn how to understand others when no one ever tried to understand her? How can anyone find happiness when they feel like they have no hope? Takopi, like us, doesn't have a good answer. Their attempts to help her only led to all of this in the first place. But after everything both of them have been through, Takopi refuses to give up. They don't want to abandon her and let her fall further into darkness. So they do the one thing that they have always been good at. They have a simple, yet heartfelt conversation.
ごめんね静香ちゃん何もしてあげられなくてごめんぴでもいつも何かしようとしてごめんぴ静香ちゃんの気持ち僕全然わかんなかったのに僕いつもお話聞かなくてごめんぴ何もわかろうとしなくてごめんぴ静香ちゃん一人にしてごめんぴうるさい静香ちゃんそんなこと言ったってもうパパ戻ってこないじゃんママは私のこともう好きじゃないじゃん静香ちゃんチャッピーも戻らないじゃんもう全部ダメなんじゃん静香ちゃんごめんね静香ちゃん
Through perseverance, proper communication, and empathy, Takopi was able to break through Shizuka's walls. It didn't change her current situation, but it did stop her from spreading the hate even further. Takopi, the alien from another planet, does what no human has ever done for her. They tried to understand the good, the bad, and the reasons in between. Shizuka starts to wander aimlessly with Takopi afterwards, surviving on street food with their last bits of money and resting wherever they can find shelter. It feels like she's taking the first steps towards healing, towards letting go of the past and looking towards the future. Or so I would like to say. Because once all the anger fades, the only thing left behind is emptiness. Takopi was able to ease Shizuka's loneliness through conversation, but talking can't accomplish everything. Talking won't bring back her family. Talking won't bring Chappie back. And most importantly, talking can't erase the sin she's committed towards innocent people. Even after everything, Shizuka is still miserable. Once again, nothing has changed. They promised her that they would one day make her smile, the biggest smile she'd ever had, but every attempt they made only pushed things in the wrong direction. This applies to Marina as well. Their direct involvement only made things worse. Still wanting to help them, Takopi searches for an answer, and when they do, they remember Azuma's words. Maybe it was a mistake to help them. Takopi takes those words to heart, and in that moment they realize there is one last thing they can do for all of them.
実は静香ちゃんに見せたいとっておきの道具があるんだっぴ。ハッピーカメラ。これで写真を撮ってカメラに読み込ませると撮った瞬間に戻ることができるんだっぴ。今は壊れちゃってもう動かないっぴけど。でもね静香ちゃん、実は思い出してたんだっぴ。一つだけ僕だから君にしてあげられること。待って、僕のハッピー力。待って、これを犠牲にすれば待って、もう一度だけカメラが使えること。待ってタコピーまでいなくなったら。静香ちゃん、君をものすごい笑顔にしてみせるっぴ。一緒にいられて幸せだったっぴ。でも静香ちゃんが笑えないのはやっぱりダメだっぴから。笑える、私笑えるから。僕の大切な君へ、本当に欲しいものが手に入るように。静香ちゃん、ありがとう。一緒に遊んでくれてありがとう。仲良くしてくれて。あの時パンをくれてありがとう。ありがとう静香ちゃん。さよなら。きっと君が。待って、タコピー。
And we're back. Back to the moment the photo was taken, and back to where it all began. The next day unfolds exactly as we remember it. Shizuka wakes up, goes to school, and Marina bullies her. On the surface, nothing has changed, but throughout the day, we see the remnants of Takopi's influence. When Shizuka wakes up in the morning, we hear Takopi's voice calling her to wake up to start the day. When Marina tries to approach her at school, she sees the image of a chameleon flower blooming, signifying that the poison from her hostility is being repelled. And last but not least, we see Azuma telling a group of classmates that he fought with his brother over their PlayStation 4, resulting in his classmates asking if they could one day come over and play sometime. Now, having people who accept him, he no longer needs the validation of Shizuka to feel complete. So when his eyes meet the girl he once clung to, he simply turns away. As for Shizuka and Marina, their day continues as it always has, until that night. The events that happen are similar to when they meet behind the school. Marina beats the shit out of her and grabs her pen to commit a Mortal Kombat fatality. But before she can, she gets a glimpse of Shizuka's notebook, and inside is a little drawing of the little creature we all came to know and love. They both start to recollect memories of Takopi. They have no idea where these memories are coming from, but the more they talk, and the more they share, the more the anger melts away. Until finally, all that's left to do is let it all out. They realize that they might not have solved any of their problems, they still might have to suffer for a very long time, but at least they can talk it out with someone else. At least they know that in a world full of conflict, confusion, and hardships, they don't have to experience them alone. And with that, the two walk off together into the night, and later, we see both a grown-up Shizuka and Marina navigating through their lives as friends. A bittersweet but beautiful ending for a beautiful show. But what about in real life? There are no magical creatures who descend into our world to spread happiness. There aren't any magical gadgets that can make us go into the past and fix our mistakes. And while Takopi's message is powerful and has made waves within the anime community, Shizuka and Marina's healing was shaped with the help of magic, not necessarily reflecting how most people overcome trauma. So what about the people who were really born in an unfortunate situation? How are they supposed to find happiness when the odds feel impossibly stacked against them, as if they never had a chance to begin with? Can people like that truly ever call themselves happy? Takopi's original sin has a very clear message, and that is helping someone find happiness can't be achieved through effort and good intentions alone. Happiness is found through understanding. It comes from seeing both the best and worst parts of someone, and learning to appreciate them not as who you wish they could be, but as who they truly are. So if we just take the time to understand the people we speak to, where they've come from, and what shaped them, we can help a lot of people. However, it's not that simple. When we see Takopi interact with our main characters, it's clear that their understanding of normal human behaviors and emotions are that of, well, an alien. And in the show, it's played off for laughs. But it's not like Takopi's obliviousness is something that is completely foreign to us. Humans fail to understand humans. We have a hard time helping people when they really need it, and opening up about our own problems. In most cases, we tend to see the bad in someone and assume that it's entirely their own choice. We don't consider where they grew up, who raised them, or what they've lived through. Their actions will never be excused, and it's our responsibility to give proper punishments out to the right people, but it's important to know the why and the how. Why did they decide this was the best option? And how did they become the person they are now? But again, it's not that simple. Everyone will meet people from different backgrounds, different life experiences, and knowing everyone's story is impossible. There's too many people and too little time. We can't understand everybody. But unfortunately, because of this, there will always be a Shizuka in this world, a Marina, someone who's been failed by too many people to save. It's one of humanity's biggest contradictions. We can't understand everyone, but to truly help someone, to make them feel accepted, we need to understand. So then what? If helping someone can potentially harm them, and if we can't understand them, how can we go about this problem of people losing hope? You might be watching this right now with very little hope left. Your experiences might not resemble anything in the show, but that doesn't make your pain any less real. Hardships don't need to be dramatic to be valid. Anyone can lose hope. Anyone can lose their reason to keep going. So, is there no solution? Is there really nothing we can do? Well, just like the show suggests, there's always going to be something we can do. You see, we might not be able to fully understand each other. We might not always be the kindest to one another, but that doesn't stop us from forming new relationships, learning more about the people around you, and strengthening the relationships we have now. Like Shizuka and Marina, human connections won't always solve problems like a broken home, undue trauma unfairly brought upon you, or silence the thoughts that you are not enough. But it does make the journey more bearable. It reminds us that we don't always have to live our lives completely alone. That even in a world as vast as ours, the person that you can find some connection with might not be as far away as you think. So the next time life hands you the opportunity to meet someone new, maybe you can start off with a simple conversation. And for the people who you've already made a connection with, just stay in each other's lives as much as possible. Remind them that no matter their flaws, their burdens, or whatever chaos going on in their lives, they are and will always be loved. It's not an easy road to open up and share part of your lives with someone, but it also doesn't need to be that hard. Because making a positive mark on someone's life doesn't require money, or status, or influence. All it really takes is you.
ありがとうバイバイ